Sharing awesome handmade gifts with loved ones is one of my favorite things about making my own skincare, and gifting season is nearly upon us. So today, I'm going to share 6 free formulations for my favorite tried and tested, highly giftable DIYs, plus my top tips and tricks for sharing your handmade creations with your friends and family. My number one consideration when choosing DIYs to make in big batches to gift is how likely a product is to actually get used. This means I gravitate towards common, familiar product types that most people will already buy and use and aren't likely to have super strong opinions about. So this means things like a lactic acid serum or a foundation usually don't make great gifts. Where I live, winter is cold and dry, so an excellent hand cream is sure to be a hit. This soft green cream is my take on a 5-star favorite from The Body Shop, their hemp hand protector. I was really intrigued by this product as it uses 2 common ingredients that I would usually avoid putting in an emulsion, but I couldn't deny how well this product worked, so I had to try DIYing it. My version is a bit lighter and more slippy than the original, but it still includes many of the same star ingredients and does a fabulous job of moisturizing and nourishing dry hands. We'll begin by weighing out the ingredients for our heated phases. I'm going to make a 200-gram batch today. The heated water phase is just 4 simple ingredients. The first ingredient is amazing for keeping the skin soft and hydrated, and it's both cheap and easy to get. Weigh out 30 grams vegetable glycerin. Up next, to add some skin-soothing goodness to this cream and boost moisturizing powers, weigh out 3 grams powdered panthenol, also known as vitamin B5. If you don't have this ingredient, you can replace it with more distilled water. A wee bit, just 0.3 grams xanthan gum helps boost viscosity and slip. I'm using regular xanthan gum here, but if you have soft or clear xanthan, you can definitely use that instead. If you're wondering about the differences between regular, soft, and clear xanthan gum, I recently made a patron-exclusive video comparing the 3, so if you would like to check that out and help support free formulation education, please consider becoming a patron at the exclusive videos tier. We'll wrap up the heated water phase with the water. Weigh out 118.5 grams distilled water. To combine the water phase, we'll begin by whisking the xanthan gum and glycerin together to prevent clumping. Once that mixture is uniform, stir in the panthenol and distilled water. Weigh the beaker, note that weight for later, and set the beaker aside. Up next, the heated oil phase. There are 7 ingredients in this phase, but most of them have easy substitutions. We'll begin with our emulsifier, the ingredient that brings the oil and water phases together. You'll need 6 grams. The Body Shop uses glycerol stearate and PEG 100 stearate, so I will too. You can use other emulsifiers, but that will change the formulation, and I'll share more details and options later in the video. This next ingredient boosts viscosity and creaminess. Weigh out 8 grams cetyl alcohol. If you need a substitution for this ingredient, I've made a few suggestions in the free partner blog post linked in the description box below. Up next is our star ingredient. This is what gives the cream both its name and its soft green color. Rich in omega-3 fatty acids and sporting anti-inflammatory properties, it is a brilliant choice for dry skin. Weigh out 12 grams unrefined hemp seed oil. Please don't substitute this ingredient. It's the star of the show, after all. For improved slip and a lighter overall skin feel, you'll need 10 grams of a lightweight, slippy ester. The Body Shop uses C12 to 15 alkyl benzoate, but I'm going to switch it up and use cocoa caprylate instead. Other options include isoamyl laurate, isoamyl cocoate, and isopropyl myristate, and I've listed even more alternatives in the free partner blog post, so check it out. These next 2 ingredients are ones I rarely choose to include in emulsions, but I love how they perform here. 6 grams of syrupy, tacky castor oil boosts the richness of the cream, and the amount is so low that the finished product isn't sticky. And lastly, I love this ingredient in balms, but I have made some seriously draggy, glue-like emulsions with it in the past, and it's beeswax. So we're using just 2 grams of it in this cream, which boosts viscosity and adds a wonderful protective feel without introducing any drag or tack. I'm using unrefined beeswax here, but you can absolutely use refined if that's what you have. Including beeswax in the formulation complicates the making process a wee bit, but more on that later. The ester really helps keep this cream from being sticky, even though it contains some rather sticky ingredients, so please, pretty please, don't eliminate it. Combine the heated phase ingredients in a second beaker that you can fit the head of your immersion blender into, and now it's time to get toasty. Because hemp seed oil is quite delicate, we want to be gentle when we heat it. I'll be using my hot plate just 1 notch above low, which will get the phases to about 70 degrees Celsius, but no warmer. If you don't have a lab hot plate that is capable of steady, low temperatures, I'd recommend using a water bath on your stovetop instead. It's a good idea to cover the water phase to reduce evaporation. I'm using a small watch glass, but you could absolutely use a bit of aluminum foil instead, or just anything solid. It doesn't have to be fancy. Once the oil phase has melted and both phases are roughly the same temperature, we are ready to start blending. This should take about 20 minutes, and keep an eye on it so you don't heat the hemp oil any longer than necessary. Weigh the water phase and top it back up to its preheat weight with some distilled water. If you've covered the water phase, this should only be a drop or 2. Pour the water phase into the heated oil phase and stir the mixture. Because of the beeswax in the oil phase, it'll start to solidify much more easily than most lotiony oil phases. So it is extra important to pour the water phase into the oil phase here, because if you pour the oil phase out of its beaker, the beeswax will cause it to solidify when it hits that cooler glass at the top of the beaker, and that's just a messy pain in the backside. Grab your immersion blender and start blending. I'm doing this with the beaker still on the hot plate to further reduce the chances of any oil phase solidifying. I'm using my Bamix immersion blender here. I found this at a thrift shop and I love it. You can find full details on it in the free Humblebee and Me encyclopedia entry on immersion blenders. After about 45 to 60 seconds of blending, switch to hand stirring. The mixture will be about the viscosity of unwhipped heavy cream at this point. Stir constantly until you notice the emulsion start to thicken a bit more, so it should be more like yogurt instead of cream. And at this point in time, you can set it aside while we weigh out the cool down phase. We'll weigh the cool down phase, which is just 3 ingredients, into a small dish. This first ingredient brings soothing, skin-protecting goodness to the cream. You'll need 0.6 grams allantoin. To protect the oils in the product from oxidization, especially the hemp seed oil, weigh out 0.6 grams vitamin E. And lastly, we need a broad spectrum preservative to ensure this formulation doesn't turn into a mold buffet in short order. So I'm using 3 grams of Optifin Plus. You could definitely use a different preservative if you wanted to. I've got a whole FAQ on switching up preservatives that's worth a read. Once you've weighed out all the cool down ingredients, add a small glug of the cream, whisk to combine, and then scrape and stir that mixture back into the parent batch. And now it's time to check the pH to make sure it's in a good place for both our preservative and our skin. The pH should fall into the 4.5 to 5.5 range. If it's lower than 4.5, you'll want to raise it, and if it's higher than 6, you'll want to lower it. For more information on pH testing and adjusting, please check out that free partner blog post. There's lots of helpful links in it. Once we've confirmed the pH is good, it is time to package up this rich hemp hand cream. It's thick enough that I don't recommend a pump top bottle, but both jars and squeeze tubes work beautifully. It will thicken up a bit more from this decadent but pourable consistency when left. The finished cream is positively fabulous for extra dry skin. I especially like this formulation as a gift because it doesn't have any added fragrance or essential oil, so you don't have to worry if your recipient will like your choice of added scent. Because, well, I'm sure we've all tried a product that was great except for the way it smelled, and if you're anything like me, those products, they don't get used very enthusiastically. Now, something I don't always show in my videos that is essential when you're gifting your creations is labeling them. Your recipient should know what it is so they know what to do with it, and they should especially know if the product needs any special treatment. They aren't likely to remember if you just tell them while they unwrap it, so write it down. You should also share the ingredient list either by including it with the gift or by emailing it or texting it to them afterwards. If you're not quite at the lotion making stage of your DIY journey, or if your friends just really love a rich skin treat, a whipped body butter is a great option. They're decadent, indulgent, and easier to make than an emulsion. A quick word of warning though. Because whipped body butters are designed to melt really easily on the skin, they'll need one of those special treatment labels. Make sure your recipients know not to leave it anywhere too warm or it's going to turn into a lumpy, oily mess. If you've ever made a whipped body butter, you are undoubtedly familiar with one of the biggest fluffy butter challenges. They can be really greasy, leaving your skin oily and your home covered in fatty fingerprints. Thankfully, there are many ways to make body butter formulations feel less greasy, and today I'm going to share the easiest one. Before we dive in, it's important to understand that anhydrous or water-free body butters will always be rich. They are, after all, pure fat. When we talk about a non-greasy body butter, it's kind of like talking about healthy cookies. A cookie can certainly be healthier, but it's still never going to be on the same nutrition level as a salad. It's the same with lighter anhydrous body butter. It can certainly be lighter than other anhydrous body butters, but it simply cannot be as light as something that contains lots of water, like a lotion or an emulsified body butter. We're starting with a super simple 2-ingredient whipped shea butter formulation I shared a couple weeks ago, and we're going to modify it to make it less greasy and add some scent and color. Make sure you're checking out the full partner blog post for more information on how I'm making those modifications. The ingredients for that super simple base recipe are really easy. It's just refined shea butter and a liquid oil. From that starter formulation, we're keeping the shea butter the same and changing up the liquid oil part. The shea butter is the ingredient that gives the body butter structure, so it is a soft solid instead of a liquid. You could use unrefined shea butter if you wanted to, but I'm using refined and deodorized shea butter, so the essential oil I'm adding later can really shine. Begin by weighing out the shea butter. You'll need 10.5 grams for this 30 gram or 1.06 ounce batch. This is a pretty small batch of whipped body butter, but it is always best to start with a small amount and scale up later if you really love the formulation. The liquid oil part is where we start to have some fun. The liquids in this formulation soften the shea butter to create a whippy, creamy, lighter body butter. We're still going to include a liquid oil, so you'll need 11.55 grams sunflower seed oil. You can easily replace this with tons of different liquid oils. Safflower, sweet almond, and apricot kernel oil would all be good options. Don't worry about this part too much. Up next is the ingredient that seriously cuts back on the greasiness of this body butter, and any formulation you want to use it in. It is super versatile. I chose this greasiness reducing approach because we can so easily just swap out some of the liquid oil from the base formulation for this ingredient and get instant results without needing to do really any redevelopment work. Measure out 6 grams of isopropyl myristate. This is an ester of isopropyl alcohol, also known as rubbing alcohol, and myristic acid, a fatty acid that naturally occurs in lots of oils and butters like coconut oil and butter, dairy butter. These 3 ingredients are our heated phase. So let's get heating. Combine them in a small bowl that you can whip in, and then pop that bowl in a water bath over medium-low heat to melt the shea butter. While the heated phase is getting all liquidy and toasty, we will weigh out our cool down phase. You can have a lot of fun with the 4 ingredients in this phase. We'll begin with an antioxidant, and this will help extend the shelf life of the body butter by delaying rancidity. Weigh out 0.3 grams vitamin E. The next 3 ingredients are fun and can easily be swapped out and around to create different themed body butters. Today's body butter is going to be a lavender calendula one, and I've included a second coffee themed one in the free partner blog post, so make sure you check that out. We'll kick off our theme with a lavendery hue, So for a really easy coloring option, we're going to add a bit of purple mica, weigh out 0.3 grams of a lavender colored mica. I'm using Deep Lilac from Humblebee. Up next, for some skin-soothing herbal goodness, we'll need an oil-based herbal extract. Lots of extracts are glycerin or propanediol-based, which means they're water-soluble, and those won't work for this formulation. Make sure you read the full ingredient list of your extract to ensure it's oil-soluble and oil-based. The extract I'm using today has a base of medium chain triglycerides, and you'll need 1.2 grams of an oil-based calendula extract. And lastly, you might have guessed this already, for some lovely calming lavender scent, you'll need 0.15 grams of lavender essential oil. If you don't have any of the ingredients in the cool down phase, simply replace them with more liquid oil. Okay, so that is it for the ingredients. Let's get back to the making. This part is where the ingredients are transformed into a light, fluffy body butter that stays gorgeously soft and pillowy. By now, the heated oil phase should be all melty. So pull the bowl out of the water bath and pop it in your freezer for 15 to 20-ish minutes. When you remove the bowl from the freezer, you want the edges to be solid and the middle to be gooey but not runny. Add the cool down phase to the frozen mixture and start whipping. You want the attachments you'd use to cream butter and sugar together if you were making cookies. I only need one beater for this bowl and batch size. It quickly became clear that I hadn't frozen the butter long enough, so you can see it liquefied like immediately once I started whipping it, so it went back into the freezer for a few more minutes to firm up some more. Don't worry if you leave it in the freezer for too long and it's too hard to whip, just let it sit on your counter for a few minutes to warm up a wee bit before carrying on. Whip for about 3 minutes, scraping down 2 or 3 times, and then once the body butter starts to soften and collapse a bit, pop it back in the freezer for another 5 minutes. Whip again for another minute or 2 until soft, pillowy, and gorgeous, and once you're there, all that's left is packaging it up. I'm using a 1 ounce frosted glass jar so you can see the purple glowing through. Of course, if you want to make a Christmas or holiday themed body butter, that's really easy too. Just choose an essential or fragrance oil and matching mica that feels holiday-y to you. So something like peppermint essential oil and a green mica, or a fragrance that smells fresh and cool paired with a silver white mica for a sort of winter wonderland effect. You can also use this holiday-ifying strategy with all sorts of other DIYs. So if you've got a lotion formulation that you love and you just would like to add a little wintry twist, tweaking the scent and color is a simple way to do that. A quick word of warning though. Make sure you are sticking to the safe usage levels for the specific essential or fragrance oils you're using. Many Christmassy essential oils like cinnamon bark and clove have really low safe usage levels. So if you want to make something with, say, a Christmas spice or an eggnog type theme, you're better off sticking with fragrance oils. The next formulation I'm sharing is something my friends and family ask me for all the time. Shampoo bars. They are easy to make and sure to get used, even if your recipient is really attached to their current shampoo, because they also make amazing body wash bars. These sparkly, rock-hard shampoo bars star 2 trending natural ingredients with long histories in hair care: castor oil and rice. These 2 inexpensive ingredients are said to help strengthen the hair, boost growth, and improve hair health. So including them in a shampoo bar felt like a no-brainer. Now, these bars are fast and easy to make, don't require any fancy equipment, and make amazing gifts. I'm going to share my formulation for free, so let's get started. Before we can start making, you'll need a few pieces of equipment. If you've done much DIYing, you'll probably have most of it already. A digital scale, a bowl, some spoons, and some smaller bowls to weigh ingredients into. But you'll also need 2 specific pieces of equipment that you might not already have if you're a newer maker. You'll need a pair of nitrile gloves so you can really get in there and squish stuff together. And to protect your lungs and prevent seriously unpleasant coughing fits, you need a tight-fitting respirator that seals well on your face. Okay, now that we are gloved and masked up, we can get to the making and weigh out the dry phase of this shampoo bar. We're going to mix up a 300-gram batch today, which will make 5 60-gram shampoo bars. Our first ingredient is where the rice goodness comes from. Rice water hair rinses have a long history of use in Asia and are loved by many today as a way to boost hair strength and growth. Rice water is made by soaking rice in water and then using that water to rinse the hair. But knowing me, I would be soaking wet in the shower every single time I remembered I was supposed to grab that container of rice water from the fridge. So instead, this shampoo bar contains a good dose of rice flour. A shampoo bar with rice flour isn't the same thing as a rice water rinse, of course, but it's got the same component ingredients, rice and water from the shower. And you're probably not going to forget it in your fridge. You'll need 51.75 grams fine rice flour. It should be silky smooth like cornstarch. Up next, the bubbles. I'm using a blend of two of my favorite sulfate-free surfactants. They create gorgeous, dense, velvety lather. I'm a big fan. You'll need 105 grams of sodium cocoa isethionate and 75 grams of sodium lauryl sulfoacetate, also known as SLSA. Make sure you're using finely powdered versions of both. Before we carry on, a quick word of warning about SLSA. Not all SLSA is the same. This is an ingredient where quality really matters. It's easy to pick up a cheap bag of it on Amazon, but there's a good chance that won't work in this formulation. I've heard tales of shampoo bars made with Amazon SLSA that simply never get hard. They stay soft, crumbly, and useless, and even SLSA that doesn't lather. The SLSA I'm using is Stepan's Lathanol LAL, and it's what most good DIY supply shops sell. I've linked to several places to purchase it around the world in the Free Partner blog post. Our final dry ingredient pulls the pH down to a good for the hair level. You'll need 0.25 grams of citric acid. Up next, our wet phase. This is what turns all those dry powders into a workable, shapeable dough. To round out the surfactant blend, make the finished shampoo bar milder, and boost the bubbles, you'll need 31.5 grams cocamidopropyl betaine. I was inspired to include this next ingredient by the live ingredient list analysis session we did over on Patreon for the Kitsch Castor Oil Shampoo and Conditioner Bars back in October 2024. The ingredient list for the shampoo bar was short and sweet, but I was intrigued by the blend of shine amplifying panthenol, strengthening hydrolyzed quinoa, density boosting pea extract, and moisturizing hyaluronic acid in the conditioner bar. It turns out those ingredients are all part of an ingredient called fission hydrotress, and I happen to have some, so I had to include it in this shampoo bar. You'll need 15 grams. If you don't have hydrotress, you can easily swap it out. I have discussed several alternatives in the Free Partner blog post. Up next, I chose this ingredient after deciding to include hydrotress because I had those Kitsch bars on the brain. Castor oil. This rich oil is really trending in hair care right now, but it's certainly not a new hair care ingredient. It's probably a stretch to say it'll boost hair growth in a rinse-off product, but it does help make the shampoo gentler and easier on your hair, and there's some undeniable label appeal too. You'll need 14.7 grams. Now, I find castor oil is quite prone to going rancid, so you'll also need 0.3 grams of vitamin E, an antioxidant, to help extend its shelf life. 3 grams of Optifin Plus wards off mold, and lastly, 3 grams of a fragrance or essential oil makes the bars smell divine. I'm using Unbroken from Stock Fragrance because I am obsessed with how it smells. It's both fresh and juicy, but not really fruity. It's great, but you could definitely use something else. Just be sure it's approved for use at 1% in IFRA Category 7A products. To make these bars, begin by dumping the powders into a bowl and stirring to break up any clumps. Up next, make a well in the center, just like if you were making fresh pasta, and pour in the liquids. If you're not already wearing your gloves, put them on now and then get in there with your hands. Smoosh, knead, mash, and squeeze everything together like a kid with Play-Doh. If you're at the point in your shampoo bar making journey where you'd like to break away from following formulations like this one and start formulating your own, please check out my shampoo bar workshop. In it, I teach you how to formulate rock-hard shampoo bars for any hair type from the ground up. There's a link in the description box below if you'd like to learn more and sign up. Once you've got a smooth, workable dough, it's time to shape the bars before we leave them to age. You can shape them by hand like this if you want, but I'm going to do something a bit more fancy. These bars are part of a series of white and gold formulations I'm making for Christmas gifts. They're very white, so we definitely need some gold. This is purely decorative, so you can skip it if you want to, but I sure think it's pretty. I'm going to use this little hand press from Humblebee to shape the bars and sprinkle the top and bottom of the mold with a bit of gold biodegradable glitter before pressing the bars. You can also press the bars into a measuring cup to shape them. You'd want to line the bottom with a round of parchment paper, just as I did with the hand press I used. Once you've shaped your bars, you can tidy them up a bit while they're still soft, and then leave them to dry and get nice and hard for 3 to 5 days before using or gifting. If you don't have everything for that shampoo bar formulation, or it just doesn't speak to you, I've shared lots of other shampoo bar DIYs for free on my website and here on YouTube, so check those out for even more ideas. Our next giftable treat is definitely best for bath people. It's a soft, scoopy, sudsy sugar scrub. Out of all the scrubs I've shared over the years, I think this one is the best for gifting for a couple reasons. One of the biggest ones is that it contains a preservative. When making water-free, self-emulsifying sugar scrubs, you can get away with leaving them unpreserved, as long as you keep the parent batch dry, which you do by portioning out a single use of scrub into like a new little container every time you take a bath. But that can be a hard thing for a gift recipient to appreciate the importance of. If someone has only ever used store-bought skincare, there's a really good chance they've never seen something spoil, and so it honestly might not even occur to them that it could happen, and that's why you've told them to do that. So when gifting, I think it's safer to gift DIYs that don't count on your recipient to alter their behavior too much, because yeah, even if you say, hey, this could mold, you gotta do this, they could forget. The second reason is the consistency. When I was a new maker, my homemade sugar scrubs would get really hard if they got too cold, and they would turn into separated oily slop if they got too warm. That is no good for a scrub, especially if you are looking to gift them or sell them. Scrubs that stay soft, scoopy, and indulgent do so because they're formulated in a completely different way than the disappointing sugar scrubs of my early making days. Today I'm going to share the secrets of pillowy scrubs and teach you how to make a soft, scoopable sugar scrub that you and your friends will love. Just look at how soft, scoopy, and flat out fun this beautiful scrub is. We're going to make a 700-gram batch today, which comes out to be about 500 milliliters, which is roughly a pint. Before we can start making, we've got to weigh out our ingredients. The first two ingredients are what makes this scrub a foaming scrub. They're both gentle, natural, and create a gorgeous lather, so the scrub is both cleansing and rinses off the skin beautifully. You'll need 28 grams of sodium lauryl sulfoacetate, also known as SLSA. Make sure you are wearing a really well-fitting respirator when you work with this ingredient, as breathing in powdered surfactants is unbelievably unpleasant. The second foaming ingredient is 21 grams of decyl glucoside. I adore the rich, dense lather this surfactant creates, but if you don't have it, you could use a different glucoside instead, like cocoa glucoside or laurel glucoside. With all of these foaming surfactants, we'll have to be careful not to whip up a bunch of foam as we make this scrub, but more on that later. Our next ingredient does double duty, both contributing to foam and also helping make the overall product milder. It's a really thick, hazy liquid, so it can be a bit tricky to weigh it out. You're going to need 28 grams of Lame Soft PO65. Now we're going to weigh out our exfoliants. So these are the ingredients that make a scrub a scrub. They're the scrubby things. Our star exfoliant is something that you can just buy at the grocery store in the baking aisle, and it is 455 grams of white granulated sugar. Swapping out the sugar for another common kitchen exfoliant will completely wreck this formulation. So if you want to learn more about that, please make sure you are reading the totally free partner blog post linked in the description box below this video. For a bit of easily customizable aesthetic loveliness, you'll need 7 grams of bursting beads or jojoba beads in a color of your choosing. I'm using gold bursting beads from Brambleberry, but have some fun and use your imagination, pair the color with the scent and the theme. Yeah! The next 4 ingredients is where that stay soft magic comes in. These ingredients are what really differentiates this formulation from anhydrous self-emulsifying scrubs that are susceptible to temperature swings. We're basically creating a lotiony base for the scrub. To emulsify, we'll need 7 grams of Retamulse SCG. Our richness boosting moisturizing oil is 31.5 grams of apricot kernel oil, but you could definitely use a different, relatively lightweight, inexpensive liquid oil instead. This is not the place to use that beautiful bottle of argan oil. This next ingredient has been shown to improve skin hydration in rinse-off products, which is awesome because this is a rinse-off product. You'll need 21 grams of a 60% sodium lactate solution. And lastly, we've got one of the most important ingredients for that stay soft magic. I used to think that you couldn't include this ingredient in sugar scrubs because it would dissolve the sugar, but there's way too much sugar in this formulation for 88.9 grams of distilled water to dissolve. And our final 2 ingredients keep this scrub from growing mold and add a really lovely scent without irritating the skin or any of the sensitive bits that are also soaking in your bathwater. To preserve the scrub, you'll need 10.5 grams of Optifin Plus. If you'd like substitution ideas for the preservative, make sure you're reading the partner blog post linked in the description box below. To add a lovely scent, you'll need 2.1 grams of a fragrance oil, and I'm using Christmas Spice fragrance oil from Voyager Soap and Candle. I am intentionally not using Christmas spice essential oils like cinnamon bark or clove bud because they can be quite irritating to the skin. And then in a formulation like this, that irritation can be further amplified by the scrubbing on the skin and by the heat of the bath water. So yeah, a fragrance oil is a less irritating way to go here. Now that we've got all of our ingredients, we just need to transform them into a soft, scoopy sugar scrub. Our first step gets all of the surfactants mixed together without kicking up a ton of foam. Combine the sodium lauryl sulfoacetate, decyl glucoside, Lamesoft PO65, sodium lactate, and apricot kernel oil in a container big enough to hold the whole batch of scrub. So I'm using a 4-cup Pyrex measuring cup. Stir to combine until the mixture is relatively smooth. You won't get a bunch of bubbles because there's very little water in this mixture, so don't worry about being delicate. You'll know everything is mixed properly when it looks like a pot of white pudding. It'll be glossy, wobbly, and smooth. Up next, stir in the Retamulse SCG and then gently add the water. Start by stirring slowly to get it to incorporate without getting really foamy. As the water incorporates, you'll be able to stir more enthusiastically. Now, we won't get very far if the Retamulse SCG remains solid, so cover the measuring cup with some cling film and heat it through with a water bath. Give it a stir every now and then, smearing some of the mixtures up the sides of the measuring cup to check for unmelted solid flakes. Retamulse SCG melts pretty readily, so if the mixture is thoroughly warmed through and you aren't seeing any solid bits, we're ready to move on. Add the sugar to the creamy base about 1/3 at a time, stirring between additions. It will seem like there is nowhere near enough base for all that sugar, but don't worry, it will work out. You'll actually notice the mixture thinning quite a lot as you add the sugar, and then there's plenty of moisture to lubricate the whole pot. Stir in the colorful bursting beads, the preservative, and the fragrance. And here's where I like to test the pH of the scrub to make sure it's in a good place for our skin and the preservative, because the scrub's really still quite runny, and so it's just a lot easier to test. The pH should fall in the 5 to 5.5 range. If it's lower than 4.5, you want to raise it, and if it's higher than 6, you want to lower it. For more information on pH testing and adjusting, please read the free partner blog post. I've included lots of helpful links and more detailed instructions in it. Once you know the pH is in a good place, cover the scrub and leave it for a few hours to thicken up. After a couple hours, the scrub will have thickened into something with the consistency of kind of cake batter. It's going to be thick, pourable, but like barely, kind of gooey in a really fun way. This last step is optional, it just gives the scrub more of an opaque, creamy look. Simply whip it with a set of electric beaters until the base of the scrub turns bright white. And now all that's left is packaging the scrub. I'm using two 250 milliliter or 8-ounce jars from Humblebee. Now let's see how this scrub works. It's got lovely lather, and you can see the bath water getting all milky and moisturizing. And now you know how to make a sugar scrub that lathers beautifully, stays scoopy and soft, and transforms your bath water into an indulgent milky soak. My fifth giftable DIY is one of my all-time favorite formulations, and I don't think it gets enough love. As a present, I'd say it's probably best suited to couples, and it's my coconut massage butter. Just like with the whipped body butter, make sure your recipients know not to leave this massage butter anywhere it'll get too hot, like right next to a radiator, or it will melt. I absolutely adore this formulation, and I think you will too. This rich, scoopable butter quickly melts when massaged into the skin, transforming into the best massage oil you've ever used. This batch will fill approximately 3 50 milliliter containers. If you'd like to scale this formulation up or down, you absolutely can. Check out my video and blog post on formulating with spreadsheets to learn how. And if you are looking for information about substitutions, shelf life, and where to buy ingredients, please read the partner blog post. It's all there. What's a massage butter? It's basically a soft, solid version of a massage oil, and massage oils are used to reduce friction during massage. I prefer the buttery format of a massage butter because it's a lot easier to get the product exactly where you want it without it just like running off the side of the surface you're massaging. This formulation is really carefully balanced melting point wise so that it is solid in its tub but quickly liquefies when massaged into warm skin. So if you make any changes to this formulation, please keep the importance of that melting point in mind. We'll begin by weighing out the ingredients for our heated phase. You'll need 9.8 grams of BTMS 50. This ingredient is a key part of the magic of this massage butter. It brings a stunning richness to the butter that leaves the skin feeling conditioned and slippy. It's lovely for both the massager and the massage recipient and makes this massage butter feel expensive and just gorgeous. It also has the added benefit of improving rinse off if the massage recipient wants to wash the massage oil off afterwards, though because it's cationic, the skin will still feel rich and conditioned throughout the day. If you don't have it, you could try BTMS 25 instead, but you'll likely need to do some redevelopment work as that will change the melting point of this massage butter. 13.3 grams of cetyl alcohol thickens the formulation to a soft solid while continuing to improve slip. Unlike fatty thickeners like cetyl alcohol or stearic acid, cetyl alcohol has a rich, slippy skin feel that never gets grippy or skiddy on the skin. I do not recommend substituting the cetyl alcohol in this formulation, but if you live somewhere quite hot, you may want to bump up the concentration by a few percentage points, reducing one of the liquid oils to compensate, to raise the melting point of the massage butter a bit. If you would like to learn more about cetyl alcohol and how amazing it is, please watch the ingredient deep dive I did on it. It contains a ton of helpful information. The last ingredient in our heated oil phase is 56 grams of virgin coconut oil. If you're familiar with coconut oil, you'll know it's a great oil for massage as it has tons of playtime on the skin when massaged in. It can be a little oily, but the BTMS 50 and cetyl alcohol help with that, though of course we do want some oiliness as this is a massage product. I'm using Baraka's traditional coconut oil, which was a gift. This coconut oil smells divine as the coconuts are toasted as part of the production process, and that scent then comes through in the final product. If you don't like the smell of coconuts, feel free to use refined coconut oil instead. Combine the heated phase ingredients in a small heat-resistant glass measuring cup or beaker. I'm using a glass measuring cup rather than a beaker as I wanted something with thicker glass for slower cooling later on. Heat the mixture to melt everything through. I'm using a water bath as the measuring cup can't go directly on the heat. The pot I'm using is a vintage Pyrex flameware pot, which is safe for stovetop use. If you're using a beaker, you can put that on top of a glass top stove or straight onto your hot plate. While the heated phase melts, weigh out the post-heat phase. You'll need 21 grams of fractionated coconut oil and 35 grams of apricot kernel oil. I've selected these oils because they are slippy on the skin, but relatively light. You could use all of one or the other, or swap in another relatively light liquid oil like sweet almond oil, sunflower oil, or safflower oil. And lastly, 4.2 grams of dimethicone 350 further boosts the slip of this formulation. Dimethicone 350 is a mid-weight, non-volatile silicone. Don't use something like cyclomethicone instead, as it doesn't have the same playtime on the skin. If you don't have dimethicone 350, you could try a heavier weight of dimethicone instead, like dimethicone 500, or you could look at trying a natural dimethicone alternative ingredient, though I find those typically don't work quite as well. If you don't have any of those options, you could replace the dimethicone 350 with more coconut oil, but that will result in a slightly less awesome finished product. Once the heated phase has melted through and everything is clear, you can remove it from the heat. If you find that the BTMS 50 is slow to melt in the water bath, even if you've powdered it like I have, you can give it a little boost in the microwave. 20 to 30 seconds should get that mixture from sort of cloudy liquid to a nice clear liquid. Stir the hot mixture and add the post-heat phase ingredients one by one, stirring to combine. This will kickstart the cooling process. The mixture will become milky as it begins to cool. Weigh in 0.7 grams of vitamin E. This will help extend the shelf life of the massage butter by delaying rancidity. If you wanted to add a fragrance or essential oil, this is also when you'd do it. I would start with 0.2 to 0.4%, reducing the fractionated coconut oil to make room. I know it's not much, but in a massage setting, the scent will amplify as it's worked into warm skin. Whatever you choose, make sure it is safe for use in leave-on body products at the rate that you're using it, and if you're using virgin coconut oil, make sure it will smell nice with virgin coconut oil. Now it's time to bring the massage butter to trace before we package it up, and we'll use a cold water bath to speed things along. Place the measuring cup containing the melted butter in a bowl of cold water. I used just 2 ice cubes so things didn't move too quickly. Stir the butter constantly until it reaches a light to medium trace. The consistency should be about as thick as unwhipped heavy cream. Once you've reached trace, pour the massage butter into wide-mouth jars. I used 3 50-milliliter screw-top plastic jars from Humblebee that were gifts. Leave the massage butter on the counter for about an hour to set up. If the massage butter doesn't set up after an hour, you might not have brought it to a thick enough trace, so gently re-melt the mixture, bring it to a thicker trace than you did the first time, and try again. If bringing the mixture to a thicker trace doesn't solve the problem, you may need to add a bit more cetyl alcohol. For this batch size, I would try gently melting in another 3 to 5 grams of cetyl alcohol. Make sure you keep good notes, and then bring it to trace again and pour and see if that does the trick. We want this formulation to be solid in the jar, but to melt quickly into a nice spreadable oil when it is massaged into the skin. So go slowly as you're adding those hardening ingredients because we don't want it to be too hard. To use this butter, massage a dollop into whatever skin you're looking to massage. Enjoy the beautiful slip, long playtime, and conditioned, powdery dry down. And lastly, the one skincare product that everyone always needs because it's sort of part sock when it comes to its ability to just vanish into thin air. Lip balm. DIY lip balm is easy to make, and with a good formula, you'll have your friends and family just casually dropping hints about how much they love your lip balm and how they're almost out. And have you, perchance, made any recently that maybe needs a good home because they could probably help you out? This formulation is such a lip balm. It's my dupe of Burt's Bees, and years later I am still making and loving it. I literally made a batch of it last week. I hope your holiday DIYing goes smoothly, and happy making.